Biomed Nexus Daily updates your essential biotech, medtech, and pharma recap. No noise, just what matters. TLDR Roche is axing agmopatide even though it hit its phase 2 goal in type 1 diabetes, redirecting resources to enicepatide for obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Both came from its $2 7B Carmot buy, and Roche just told you which one it is betting on. BMS lifted its 2026 outlook on strong earnings, but its closely watched Alzheimer's psychosis data for Cobenfy slipped again, and a milvexian readout got pushed back. Novo faces a shareholder lawsuit alleging it hid protocol changes in a pivotal CagriSema trial, adding to a rough stretch for the company. Capricor walked into its hearing against negative FDA briefing documents, an uphill battle ahead of its August 22 decision. Celcuity's Revtopic landed a preferred Category 1 spot in the NCCN guidelines, a major commercial boost weeks after approval. Executive takeaway: Roche just made the kind of hard choice that tells you where the whole industry's head is. It is discontinuing agmopatide, a drug that actually succeeded, hitting its main goal in a phase 2 type 1 diabetes study in order to concentrate resources on enicepatide for obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Both assets came from Roche's $2 7B acquisition of Carmot Therapeutics, and cutting a winner to focus on the bigger prize is a statement of priorities. Roche is not interested in a nice type 1 diabetes drug. It wants a shot at the obesity market, and it is willing to kill a positive asset to sharpen its aim. That is how gravitational the obesity opportunity has become. When a company axes good data to chase a better market, the market it is chasing is the one that matters. This sets up the thread we want to watch this week. For months, we have argued that Lilly's obesity lead looks close to unassailable, and on the current generation of drugs it does. But the challengers are mobilizing. Roche is concentrating its firepower on enicepatide. Arrowhead teased Friday that its next-generation mechanism doubled tirzepatide's weight loss in an early readout. Novo is fighting Lilly on every front, in the clinic, in the market, and in court. The question for the week, and really for the next 2 years, is whether the second wave of obesity science, novel mechanisms, and focused bets from well-capitalized players can actually dent Lilly's dominance, or whether Lilly's head start in efficacy, manufacturing, and commercial reach is simply too large. We will track the obesity moves this week and return to the question Friday. Our current read is unchanged. Lilly leads the present decisively, but the challenges are no longer theoretical. One note on the broader picture. Q2 earnings have closed out strong, with BMS, Regeneron, and Takeda all delivering and BMS raising guidance. The sector is healthy, the recovery is real, and the numbers backed the mood, exactly as the season promised. The blemish is the pipeline timing, with BMS's Cobenfy Alzheimer's data slipping again, a reminder that even a strong quarter cannot make hard science move faster. Read full analysis. Obesity Roche cut a drug that worked to go all in on obesity. RHHBY Roche is discontinuing agmopatide despite it meeting the main goal of a phase 2 study in type 1 diabetes, choosing instead to prioritize enicepatide for weight loss, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular outcomes according to Biospace. Both drugs came from Roche's $2 7B acquisition of Carmot Therapeutics, and the decision is a clear signal of where Roche sees the value. Type 1 diabetes is a meaningful market, but obesity is the largest opportunity in medicine, and Roche is concentrating its resources on the asset with the best shot at it. It is a disciplined, if striking, portfolio call, and it puts Roche firmly among the challengers trying to build a credible obesity franchise to rival Lilly and Novo. The move also fits the pattern of hard prioritization we have seen across the industry this earnings season, from GSK's restructuring to Sanofi's pipeline cuts. Earnings BMS raised its outlook, but the Alzheimer's data everyone wanted slipped again. BMY's strong quarterly results prompted BMS to lift its 2026 outlook, but the company is facing another delay for its key Cobenfy Alzheimer's psychosis data and a pushed-back readout for milvexian, according to Biospace. This matters to a story we have tracked. Cobenfy, the drug formerly known as KarXT that anchored the roughly 14B Karuna acquisition, was supposed to deliver its Alzheimer's psychosis readout as one of the summer's key binary events, the clearest test of whether that deal pays off. Now it slips again. The strong earnings show the base business performing, but the repeated delays on the expansion data keep the Karuna thesis unproven and push the verdict further out. Regeneron and Takeda also reported both beating expectations, capping an earnings season that broadly confirmed the sector's health, even as individual pipelines hit timing snags. Legal Novo got hit with a shareholder suit over CagriSema. Envionovo Nordisk faces a shareholder lawsuit alleging it withheld information about crucial protocol changes in a Phase 3 study of its weight loss drug, CagriSema, which the plaintiffs say led investors to buy shares at artificially inflated prices, according to Biospace. It adds to a difficult run for Novo, which is simultaneously suing Lilly over obesity drug advertising, defending its market position against Lilly's superior efficacy data, and working to re-establish momentum after a bruising stretch. CagriSema, its combination of semaglutide and cagrilintide, was meant to be a centerpiece of Novo's next-generation obesity strategy, and litigation over how it disclosed the trial's conduct is an unwelcome distraction. The contrast with Lilly, executing cleanly and dominating, keeps getting sharper. Regulatory Capricor entered its hearing already behind. The FDA issued negative briefing documents on Capricor's Doramyocel for Duchenne muscular dystrophy ahead of its advisory committee meeting, and Biospace reported the documents pointed to an uphill battle for the therapy, according to the pharma letter. Walking into an AdCom against a skeptical agency review is a hard position, and it raises real risk into the August 23rd decision date we have tracked. We flagged the surprise of this AdCom back in June, and the reviewer doubts last week. The negative briefing documents confirm the trajectory, and Capricor's path to approval now looks genuinely difficult. Amgen mounted its Tavneos defense. Amgen launched an official defense of Tavneos, according to Biospace, pushing back as it fights to keep the rare disease drug on the market. The move continues the saga we have tracked since June through the FDA's voluntary removal request over patient deaths, the European CHMP's revocation recommendation, and the retraction of the pivotal study. Amgen is not giving up the franchise without a fight, but it is defending a drug whose evidence base has taken hit after hit, and the odds remain against it. Oncology Celcuity turned its approval into a guideline win. Celcuity said Revtorpic Gedatolizib was added to the NCCN guidelines as a preferred Category 1 second-line and later therapy for the breast cancer patients it treats, according to the pharma letter. This is a significant commercial boost coming just weeks after the drug's first FDA approval, which we covered in July. NCCN guideline inclusion, especially at the preferred Category 1 level, drives prescribing and reimbursement, since oncologists and payers lean heavily on these guidelines. For a company that only just landed its first approval, moving this quickly to preferred guideline status is a strong start to the commercial story, and it validates the wild-type positioning we highlighted at approval. Quick hits. J&J signed a collaboration with Sale Biosciences that includes an option to acquire the company, adding an early-stage bet to its pipeline. The US is releasing $600 million in funding for Gavi, the Global Vaccine Alliance, ending months of uncertainty over Washington's support amid a dispute over vaccine safety and purchasing. Maplight lost about 2/3 of its market value even after positive mid-stage results, a brutal reaction that one analyst pushed back on, citing the totality of the data. GSK recorded $2.04 in impairment charges for the quarter, roughly the same amount its new restructuring aims to save annually, framing the scale of the reset we covered last week. The week in review. Monday, retatrutide hit in 2 more pivotal trials. We set the tariff deadline as the week's thread. Tuesday, Argenx paid $2. $2 for Fort, while Sanofi's $1. $4 Kymab bet faltered. Wednesday, the FDA cast doubt on Capricor. GSK launched a 2,5B restructuring. Thursday, a GLP-1 drug curbed heavy drinking, widening the class's frontier. Friday and weekend, the 100% pharma tariffs took effect. Earnings confirmed a healthy sector. Roche axed a winner to focus on obesity. Read full analysis. Biomed. Nexus. Pro. Institutional intelligence. Brief. The challengers to Lilly ranked Roche. Cutting acmopatide to focus on enicepatide is a good moment to assess who can actually challenge Lilly in obesity, because the field of contenders is finally taking shape. Novo Nordisk is the incumbent challenger, the company that created the category and now trails Lilly on efficacy. It has oral and injectable semaglutide, CagriSema, coming despite the litigation cloud and deep commercial infrastructure. Its problem is that Lilly's tirzepatide and retatrutide have simply shown better weight loss, and Novo is now fighting on advertising and in court, which is not where a leader competes. Novo remains the most credible challenger by scale, but it is playing defense. Roche is the newly focused challenger. By concentrating on enicepatide, a dual-mechanism drug from Carmot, and cutting a positive but off-strategy asset, Roche signals it is serious. It has the resources and the discipline, but it is behind on timelines and has yet to show data that matches the leaders. Its advantage is a clean balance sheet and a willingness to make hard choices. The next-generation challengers are the wild cards. Arrowhead, with its INHBE and ALK7 programs, teased doubling tirzepatide's weight loss in an early readout, using RNA interference rather than peptides. Amgen has maritide. Various amylin and muscle-preserving approaches are advancing. These are the ones that could actually leapfrog Lilly because they work through different biology, but they are earlier and less proven. The honest ranking. Lilly leads decisively today and likely through the next 2 to 3 years on efficacy, manufacturing, and commercial reach. Novo is the scale challenger playing catch-up. Roche is the disciplined new entrant. And the next-generation mechanisms are the real long-term threat, if their early signals hold in larger trials. Our read remains that Lilly's present lead is close to unassailable, but the phrase that matters is present. The obesity market is so large that it will attract relentless investment, and the mechanism that eventually challenges Lilly may be one of the RNA interference or amylin approaches now in early trials rather than anything on the market today. Watch the next generation data because that is where a genuine threat originates. What BMS's Cobenfy delay really means BMS raising guidance while its Cobenfy Alzheimer's psychosis data slips again, captures a specific tension worth understanding, the gap between a healthy base business and an unproven growth thesis. Cobenfy, formerly CarXT, is the drug BMS acquired through the roughly 14B Karuna deal. It is approved and selling in schizophrenia, which supports the base business. But the deal's premium was justified by the expansion opportunity, the bet that Cobenfy's novel mechanism would work across neuropsychiatric conditions, starting with the psychosis that afflicts many Alzheimer's patients and has almost no good treatment. The Alzheimer's readout is the test of that expansion thesis, and it keeps getting delayed. Repeated delays are not the same as failure, but they carry cost. Every slip pushes out the moment when BMS can prove the Karuna price was justified, extends the period of investor uncertainty, and gives competitors more time. Neuropsychiatry is unforgiving, as we have chronicled all year through failures at Neumora, the Alzheimer's graveyard, and the mixed Biogen-Tau data. A delay in this setting reads as risk because the base rate of success is low, and the longer a readout takes, the more the market wonders why. The read for BMS. The strong earnings and raised guidance show the company can fund its future while it waits, which matters. But the growth narrative increasingly depends on Cobenfy's expansion, and until the Alzheimer's data actually arrives and reads out positive, the Karuna thesis stays unproven, and the stock carries that overhang. For investors, BMS is a company with a solid present and a deferred verdict on its most important bet. The delay is not fatal, but it keeps the single most important question about BMS's future unanswered, and it will stay that way until the data finally lands. Celcuity's fast commercial start Celcuity going from first approval to preferred Category 1 NCCN guideline status in a matter of weeks is a genuinely strong commercial signal, and it is worth explaining why guideline inclusion matters so much. In oncology, the NCCN guidelines are the reference that community and academic oncologists use to make treatment decisions and that payers use to determine coverage. A drug's placement in these guidelines heavily influences whether it gets prescribed and reimbursed. Preferred Category 1 status, the highest level, reflecting high-level evidence and uniform consensus, is the best position a drug can occupy. It effectively tells every oncologist that this is a recommended standard option for the relevant patients. For Celcuity, landing there within weeks of approval accelerates the commercial ramp dramatically. Rather than spending months building prescriber awareness and fighting for coverage, the drug arrives with the endorsement that drives both. It validates the wild-type peak 3CA positioning we highlighted at approval, the choice to target the underserved patient population without the mutation that competitors focus on, and it de-risks the launch, since guideline inclusion is often the gating factor for uptake. The read for a newly commercial company. Celcuity's first approval made it a commercial entity. The rapid guideline win makes it a credible one. The remaining questions are execution, whether a first-time commercial organization can capitalize on the strong positioning, and the pipeline, whether gedatolisib delivers in the prostate and other tumor programs that represent the multi-billion-dollar upside. But the start is about as strong as a first launch gets, and it suggests the market underrated the drug when the stock dropped on the initial efficacy questions in June. Guideline status is the market correcting that view. Catalyst calendar date event tickers. This week Q2 earnings continue. Amgen, Gilead, and others. Multiple August 2026 Replimune RP1 FDA response. Replogus 22 Capricorn. Deramiocel PDUFA. Negative briefing docs. Kappa delayed. BMS Cobenfy. Alzheimer's psychosis readout. BMY late 2026 PTC. Sepiapterin PKU. Readout PTCT imminent revolution. Medicines CNPV filing RBM deminent Lilly. Foundio T2D filing under CNPV LI ongoing biotech. Investment National Security Act awaits committee vote multiple 2026 Neladalkib FDA decision. ALK NSCLC GSKH2 2026 Arrowhead ARO INCHBE and ARO ALK7 Obesity. Readouts ARWRQ3 2026 Revolution. Daraxonrasib approval projected. Truist RVMDQ3 2026 Unicure. Huntington's gene therapy under review QREQ3 2026 ReganXBIO Duchenne gene therapy. BLA filing RGNXQ3 2026 ABVRE Apogee Vertex Crinetics Ipsen deals close expected multiple Q3 2026 Merck KGaA Biotechne close expected MKKGY Septa 19 Ultragenyx UX111 PDUFA Sanfilippo Type A Rarecept 29 Section 232 Pharma tariffs effective all others multiple NOV14 Summit Ivonescimab FDA decision NSCLC SMMT and OV30 Vertex Povetacicept PDUFA EGA nephropathy VRTX Deck 2026 Mineralis Lorundrostat PDUFA MLYS Deck 7 Lilly Investment Community Meeting, LLY 2027, retatrutide, launch anticipated, BMO. LI 2028, generic drug tariffs begin phasing up, multiple Roche killed a winner to chase the obesity prize, and the challenges to Lilly are finally taking shape. BMS raised guidance, but its Alzheimer's data slipped again, and Celcuity turned an approval into a guideline win. This week, we are watching the obesity race. What are you watching? Reply to this email. Visit the Pro Hub Read. Full article sponsorship slots for 2026 are limited. See packages and pricing. New Biomed Nexus signals weekly sales intelligence for life sciences BD teams. Learn more